Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Buff Breakdown. We are now day 5 in out of the anniversary 8 buffs, and yeah, today we got the buffs for a 5-star caster and a 4-star lancer. And you're looking right at it for the 5-star caster. Yes indeed, they have finally buffed Anastasia of all Zervids. This was my prediction as well, and also a hope because she's really starting to fall behind, so hey, there you go. Honestly, I'm gonna say it, I'm happy. So there you go, enjoy. And then the 4-star Lancer buff went to Summer Kiyohime, so another summer buff, very interesting. Also, both of these are skill buffs. So let's just jump right into it and start covering the Anastasia buffed. They buffed her 3rd skill, the battery. So what it used to do, on a 7-turn cooldown on max rank, you get a 50% battery for herself, and then a 60% chance on max rank to stun one enemy for 1 turn. Not great, honestly, because even the 50% battery standard is 6 turns, so at least they fixed that, you know, with the cooldown, which is great. But yeah, it used to not be very good. Now, there was a cute little combo with the first skill that, you know, when you use the first skill, for 1 enemy, it does a minus 100% debuff resistance down for 1 turn. And for those that don't know, it's basically like a debuff version of debuff success rate up. So what that means is that if you land this 100% debuff res down on an enemy, this stun chance from the 3rd skill becomes a 160% chance on base. So unless they have a real insane amount of debuff res, you're basically going to get guaranteed the stun, which is cool. So for those that didn't know about that combo, now you do, and how that interaction with those buffs work. But let's see the new one then. So now again, cooldown came down. Now it's the 6-turn cooldown, so the 50% battery is basically now on standard cooldown level, which is cool. And then what did they change? Well, the 60% chance to stun for 1 turn is now AoE. So it's going to try and stun all enemies. As far as I know, they will all be individual calculations, like every AoE CC in the game. So you could land like 1 of them out of 3, or you could land like 2 of them, or you could land all, or you could miss everything. You never know. But yeah, that's how that works. So interesting. And then another new thing that they added is it's a 30% arts resistance down on all enemies for 3 turns. Interesting. It's very good, actually. But I have some issues with this. Let's talk about the stun thing first. Remember, again, the first skill is only single target. So sadly, you can't get like an easy AoE stun off. You still have to rely on RNG for the other 2 targets. So it's a bit awkward now. I mean, obviously it's better because you have more chances to stun more enemies. So it's still better, but it's a bit awkward now. So maybe they're going to buff the first skill in the future. You never know. And then the other new effect they added is a debuff. I would have loved to have seen like a 3-turn arts buff on her instead. I mean, obviously she already has a 1-turn arts buff on the first skill, but because she can actually arts loop, so you would obviously prefer a buff instead of a debuff on a looper as well. So so I'm just gonna be blunt. If you look at the farming numbers here, she was like the worst of all the SSR casters. It's not even close. Both Murasaki, Scheherazade, of course, even Sieg as a welfare with the free MP5 do definitely, you know, quite a bit better. So she was the worst already. And as sad as it is, with this buff, this won't really affect her farming much at all. Not really at all. It's gonna give her 1 turn of more damage, basically. It's like like a second kind of mana burst, if that makes sense. So for farming, it's not really going to change anything, really. She's still going to be pretty meh for farming. For both her refund is not that great, and her damage still will remain low, so there's that. But hey, for bosses, this is definitely significant, because again, she's AoE, so having an AoE stun makes more sense, because you want to bring her against, you know, more than 1 enemy to begin with. And then the arts res down, obviously, since bosses will be alive for, you know, multiple turns because of break bars and whatnot. There, the debuffs are not as bad or as awkward as in a farming scenario. So for bosses, it's a good buff. But would I still say it's like the best buff ever? Honestly, not really. Now, on my caster tier list, I had her placed her in B+, and honestly, I think I'm gonna keep her there. Yeah, I just might keep her there, honestly. As brutal as it looks, I might not move her at all. We'll see next year when I revisit the caster tier list again, but yeah, it's a buff, it helps, but in the grand scheme of things, will it really change all too much? Maybe not. I have to say though, the arts resistance down against bosses, again, it's cute because not only does it increase her damage on her arts cards and her MP, of course, but it also increased the refund she gets. So it should be a little bit easier to spam her MP on bosses at least, but I might just leave her in B+ for now. We'll see next year again when the caster tier list drops, or unless they want to buff her again, I would not be mad. So there you go. There's the Anastasia buff. So let's talk about the Kyo Lancer buff then. Another Summer Servant buff. Okita Summer was not the only one. So they buffed her first skill. So previously, on a 5-turn cooldown, you only got one effect. It was 30% crit chance down on all enemies for 3 turns. Honestly, I didn't hate this. It's a good uptime and it's a debuff I like against bosses. So yeah, it was never like terrible. Basic as hell, yes, but terrible? Not really, honestly. But they did buff it. And let's see what happens now. So still on the same 5-turn cooldown, you get the same 30% AoE crit chance down for 3 turns on all enemies. And now she also applies a 1000 burn for 5 turns on all enemies as well upon use of the skill. Okay, you gotta have burn memes as a Kyo, I suppose. Then she now gets a flat 20% battery. So that's a new thing as well. Cool. And then finally, whenever she gets a buff for 3 turns, and whenever she attacks during those 3 turns, she applies a burn amplifier on the target for 5 turns. And I assume this means her MP, of course, also applies because it doesn't say anything about only normal attacks. So let me double check just in case. So yeah, even her MP should be able to do that burn spread from this skill as well. So there you go. Honestly, it's not a big buff. It really isn't. The burn and the burn amp, you know, it's like easier to like, you know, get honey like synergy and whatnot, but you also have CCs for that anyway. If the burn was added on every attack, then maybe there would be some kind of legitness, but as is, the burn only happens on the application of the skill, and then the attacks only apply the burn amp. But maybe, you know, there could still be some damage from it. I'd like to see someone try it out. Why not? So the real thing that kind of, you know, makes any real difference, at least so far, in my eyes, is the 20% battery. Which again, is it much? No. It's basically the smallest battery they could have added that's only for herself. So this one, in my opinion, is the weakest buff of them all so far in Anniversary 8. It won't really do too much. Unless someone finds a way to maybe make the burn stack legit. But I don't really see it being all that legit. Now, on the tier list, I had her placed on a C, and honestly, again, as brutal as it is, I'm probably not going to move her either. It's a small buff. It really is a small buff. Both of today's buffs are not huge. I think the Anastasia buff is better, but neither of them are really, like, great big buffs. So this is kind of a lame day, if that makes sense. Yeah, it sounds a bit savage to call it that, but you know what? At least both of the servants, I would say they're kind of fair recipients of the buffs. They were both not that great. So to recap, Anastasia now can stun all enemies, yay, and then she applies an AoE arts res down for 3 turns. Cool for bosses. For farming, it won't really change too much, just give her more damage for 1 turn and that's about it. For bosses, it's gonna make her damage better and also easier to spam her MP as well. So honestly, it's an alright buff. It's not great, but it's alright. And then the Kyo Lancer buff is like, really the battery is like the only thing I'm kind of vibing. The burn one, I assume, is mostly still a meme and, you know, a lore thing because Kyo has to have all those burn stuffs, right? So this one, I'm not really vibing. Now, as for tomorrow, second to last day, day 6, we're getting a 5-star Foreigner buff and a 3-star Rider buff. My predictions are probably one of the Abigails for the Foreigner buff, be it OG or Summer. And since they've done 2 Summer buffs now, I'm honestly leaning more towards Summer. And I guess for Plushie's sake, I'm kinda, you know, hoping for Koyan Dark as well. Although I think she's already way better than Summer Abigail is. So I'm just gonna stick to Summer Abigail as my main prediction. But any of those 3, or even someone else like Voyager, for instance, I would not be mad. We'll see how it goes. And for the 3-star Rider, my prediction is actually Medusa. With the release of Saber, she's getting a bit more love now. Only her MP has ever been buffed, and all her skills, in my opinion, are pretty damn weak. So they could definitely buff Medusa quite a bit. So there you go. There's my predictions for tomorrow. And there you go. That's day 5 wrapped up. But yeah, again, a cute little thing that they buffed Anastasia finally after like over 4 years or something. But hey, there she is. Yay. If you enjoyed this video, do me a solid and press the thumbs up button on it. Do subscribe not to miss out on future buff breakdowns. We still got 2 more days of those, and I'm also planning on uploading other fun stuff as well, including free-to-play highlights, gacha, Udabit. We got it all coming. Have a great rest of your day, and a peace out.